there's a few reasons why golfers don't get better. First of it, like when I go to the driving range, if I go to the driving range after this, and I go watch people practice what they're good at, right? And then they practice the same thing, and they don't vary their practice routine. And like, there's a very broad skill set to what's required to actually go out and play good golf. And it'd be like trying to learn to play a song on a musical instrument, but you're only ever going to spend your time figuring out three notes. Of course, you get torn apart when you get on the course.
Welcome to The Golf Parent, where you get access to the best minds in junior golf. Today, my guest is Liam Mucklow, founder of the Golf Lab and co-creator of the Baseball Performance Lab. We dive into the science of youth athletic development, talking speed, stats, biomechanics, and the role that parents play in unlocking long-term success. It's a powerful episode for anyone serious about raising a well-rounded athlete. But before we get into it, a quick word from a good friend of ours, Tour Striker. Whether your junior is working on better ball striking or refining their swing path, Tour Striker makes the tools that bring practice to life. Trusted by the world's best coaches and players, Tour Striker training aids are perfect for players of all levels. And as a listener of The Golf Parent, you can save 15% on anything, even sale items, by using the code GOLFPARENT, all one word, at checkout. Head to tourstriker.com and fuel your athlete's journey. And now, let's get into the episode. Liam, welcome to The Golf Parent.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Ryan.
So we were just briefly, you were giving me a little snapshot into your day right off air. And I think that is a perfect way to start this podcast because it gives the audience just a little glimpse of to who you actually are. So why don't you just tell me what you did today? Like what was your agenda?
Yeah, it was scattered, no doubt. Kicked off this morning. Before normal North American working hours, I was on the call with one of the largest manufacturers of launch monitors, golf launch monitors, well, all sport launch monitors, I guess, over in Europe. From there, we shifted into some conversations about force plates, moment arms with Norwegian software developers, which was quite interesting. Um, then popped into the baseball lab, and we're looking at some MOI measurements on various torpedo bats. Followed by, I think I finally got Chat GPT to actually do something really useful for my life. I was like partway through installing a program that's going to allow me to compare raw launch monitor data from two different companies, very mismatched spreadsheets. And actually, the last one, right before this call, was with a couple of guys out of Tennessee that are 3D printing some putter shafts. So, yeah.
And I'm not going to mention the school, but you're also, I believe, forgetting there's a high-level Division I school that you're working on
Yes. So if any of you guys have seen the grip pressure research that I've done in golf, we're looking to scale that technology off into a sport that is, let's say, very, very popular down here in my adopted home state of Louisiana. So, yeah.
Yeah, you could read between the lines, but okay.
Yeah.
So if you haven't put it together, Liam is an expert in all things data, scientific, figuring out how to give athletes an edge using technology. Is that fair? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, I make a lot of mistakes, but I think that maybe is how you become an expert. I don't know.
Isn't that the scientific method, right? It's you
I
gotta
think
fail,
so.
fail, fail till you find it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so right now your two major sports that you're involved in is Major League Baseball and golf. And I think you had said
Yep.
that 30% of Major League Baseball teams or players are actually using your guys' technology. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've got 8 contracted teams. I mean, we had a ton of people, like hitters individual, come down to the lab. I'm based in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Was super fortunate a few years ago to have the opportunity to be contacted and then work closely with Marucci Sports. They're the official bat of Major League Baseball now. Company's relatively young, about 15 years old, but quickly usurped Louisville Slugger's 100-year history to become the dominant bat in Major League Baseball. And so it's been pretty awesome to work with a manufacturing team that wants to really follow the golf route and see like what can we do to customize every last aspect of the bat to help hitters perform. I mean, I can't tell you, but I I mean, I struggle to hit in little league baseball. I can't imagine in big league baseball.
It's funny. One of my first dates with my now wife is I took her to a batting cage, and I played little league too for like whatever 3 years, something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nothing that competitively, but it had the varying speeds, and I hadn't swung a bat in like I don't know 15, 20 years, whatever it was, and so we start like 60 miles an hour, and I'm like, okay, cool, this is fast. It's a lot faster than I
Yeah.
remember, and then I worked it all the way up to like 80 miles an hour, and it was just woof, right by me, and I was like, whoa, okay, whole newfound respect for major league hitters. These are fastballs too. That ball's not moving anywhere, and it just takes a while for your brain to be able to catch up. It's crazy.
It is. It's wild. And I mean, it takes like, one of the things, without trying to get too much into the weeds earlier, is just it takes so much more energy to move a baseball bat, right?
Hmm.
Like, just the sheer weight of it compared to the weight of a golf club is it does require a significant amount more force. And like, and think about, the physicality of an average major league hitter is really more closer to that of say a long drive professional than say a tour pro. Now, what then you get to the next level. It's like you see these guys creating mid 70-mile-an-hour bat speeds right now. That's close to the same amount of energy it would take to create say 135 to 140-mile-an-hour club head speed. But like in long drive, the ball's not moving, and you get six chances to hit the grid. So these guys are creating these speeds, really with I'll say at least a contact minded mentality, right? Like just you talked about adjustability is what they call it because they don't know if it's fastball, you know, slider, knuckle curve, whatever. There's so many endless options with the way technology has been applied for pitchers and pitch design. That's why
Hmm.
it's been kind of fun to try and do some bat design to help the hitters out.
So uh, you mentioned the Louisville Slugger versus Marucci bats. Did they? How did they usurp them? Was it just deeper pockets? Was it the actual technology? And what did they figure out after 100 plus years of bat technology that actually has changed the game?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think a lot of it has to do with just passion. Like I
Interesting.
remember the first time walking around campus there, it was crazy. I'm like, every guy I meet, they're like, "Oh, yeah, okay, well, this guy played at LSU, and then he was, whatever with Tubbs and the Royals, and like, talking about our Alberta connections. The master bat maker has been there since day one. He was a pitcher, so the CEO, one of the founding partners, is a pitcher, which is ironic. I was a pitcher too. When here we are spending all our time on bats, but like talking to Laxton, like guy used to go play against the Trappers and the Cannons way back in the day. Like,
Okay.
it's just it's cool
These
because
are
like
Alberta kind of like I guess what would you call them? Like farm teams?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like they're one step down from the bigs and get some great players roll through there. But like, the biggest thing that surprised me is the number of people there. They're like baseball people, so they just have this passion. And you hear stories about when they got started, and someone would order a dozen bats and they'd get a box of six and be like, "Hey, I only got six." Like, yeah, well, you got six good ones. I could have sent you six good ones and six that are kind of so-so, but we're not going to do that. We're only going to send out the best quality product. So I'm like, okay, this is cool. Like if we're going to do this baseball thing, these are the only guys that, that really care at that deep, deep level. So
That's
it's
awesome.
been pretty neat.
Cool. Okay, so going back to kind of your background with figuring out and using technology and the scientific method to improve in any sport and to improve the actual equipment as well as the actual
Mhm.
swing mechanics. Switching back to golf then for a sec.
Yep.
What have you seen? Like we've got these we're inundated with numbers now and everybody's obsessed with swing speed. Everybody's looking at launch monitors and all the different data. Excuse me. How do we simplify it for the average golf parent? Like what are the numbers that they should be looking at? What's the most important thing that you've seen? And what are some of the
Well,
big misconceptions right now in the industry?
I'll tell you what, to me, and I am a golf parent. I mentioned I got a 14-year-old. He just finished middle school. He's kind of he's been around golf, but he's kind of getting into it. So it's a really weird middle ground position to be in. I think the most important piece of technology for a parent out there is like statistical tracking. So like I use a program called Shots to Hole. Like if I'm gonna coach you, it's non-negotiable because if think about this. Think about for parents that are out there, if they're watching this, I want you to think about how many, how much money you spent on lessons, how much money you spent on clubs, on clothes, on green fees, on balls, on golf trips, on travel, and then how much of your own personal time. And if you're not using a quality stats program, like are you really going to rely on your 12-year-old's interpretation of their on course in tournament performance to give feedback to coaches you're paying a lot of money? Like, yeah, it's not like a sexy TrackMan or Foresight thing, but like, come on. At the end of the day, performance is the number on your scorecard. So let's start with technology that helps us understand what manifested this number on my scorecard, right? So, like, I'll give you an example. My kid's index is like, he's on a golf trip right now. It's like a 5. Okay, he drives it like a +1. From outside of 40 feet, he puts it like a 12. From inside of 15 feet, he puts it like a +1. And, he'll miss 3 greens a day where he doesn't even get his chip shot on. But it makes it pretty freaking easy what I'm going to spend our time on. And like, time is our most limited resource. Do I get him on a launch monitor to make sure his driver's got the right launch and spin? Yeah, but that's not where we need to log our hours, right? All that stuff is going to tell you what happened. It doesn't tell you what to do. Stats tell me what to work on. And yeah, like, that just matters.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it's if you don't have a plan, if you don't know where you're going, you can kind of end up anywhere. And I guess the numbers and the stats are what at least is a compass as to what direction you should be heading.
Yeah,
It,
and most golfers, again, I'm going to say, like, if you got golf, if the golf parents are golfers themselves, I hope this resonates. There's a few reasons why golfers don't get better. Um, First of it, like, when I go to the driving range, if I go to the driving range after this, I go watch people practice what they're good at, right? And then they practice the same thing, and they don't vary their practice routine. And like, there's a very broad skill set to what's required to actually go out and you know play good golf. And it'd be like trying to learn to play a song on a musical instrument, but you're only ever going to spend your time figuring out 3 notes. And of course,
because
when
you
you go to
enjoy
play the
those and
song,
you're good at them.
yeah, yeah. Of course, you get torn apart when you get on the course.
That's such a good analogy. I never thought of it that way, but yeah, it's so true. It's pleasing to play C and B minor or whatever it might be. So you just keep practicing that over and over again.
Hmm.
You can't play too many songs unless you can actually work on the rest of it. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, talk about the biomechanics aspect of it because everybody is changing, everybody develops. You've got the different levels of development based on different age groups. How does that play into this?
Well, I mean, like anything, it's like, how deep do you want to go? Okay, well, so first have a high level understanding. There's a difference between chronological and biological age. Obviously, you put 10, 13-year-olds in a row and you can see the difference between that, because at one end, someone's going to be 5'11" and shaves 3 times a week, and someone's going to be the opposite end of the spectrum. So just having an awareness for that. If you want to dive deeper into things, I would encourage people to look up this thing called peak height velocity. And so that's not like how tall you are, but what you do is say, take your kid and, stand him in the door jam, and, at least like my parents did, and mark off the height and mark the date and measure them, every single month. But then when you want to chart this out, like time and growth, don't chart out how tall they are, chart out how much they've grown since the last 30 days, and you're going to see it ramp up. It's going to get to a peak. Could be anywhere 11 to 15, which is a very broad range, right?
Hmm.
Now, as soon as someone hits peak height velocity, get them in the gym. And,
Let me see if
and
I
if you want to
understand that
be
correctly.
really,
Hang on a
yeah,
second,
yeah, yeah,
Liam, because I want to make sure that the audience and myself understand that. So
for
you're
sure.
plotting out the height, and once you start seeing that peak height, like it plateauing after a certain while, then you know that they've kind of hit their peak height for that
Not,
time, and then you
not
start
their,
developing
not their peak height. I'm charting out their growth.
growth. Okay.
So not how tall they are, but like, okay, well, you grew a quarter inch this month, and a quarter inch this month, and a quarter inch this month. Oh, wait, it ramped up to half an inch, half an inch. Oh, it's 3/4 of an inch, 3/4. Oh, it's back down to half an inch. So it's the rate at which they're growing, not their height.
Gotcha. And so once it hits that peak growth, so once it hit in your analogy, the 3/4 of an inch, and then it started going back down, you know that that growth spurt now is over, so you can start working them out.
Well, it's yeah, and it's beyond even just that growth spurt. It's like that trended longer over time, and that's like the best time where you can actually start people have to, start lifting reasonable loads. So say like, before that, if you want to get into training, it'd be like train the motions. So, Romanian deadlift, hanging clean, clean and jerk, that type of stuff. Train, but do it like a broom handle or a PVC pipe. And then once your child comes out of peak height velocity, okay, maybe like, use a 15-pound bar, and a 25-pound bar, and you can kind of slowly start to ramp it up. The other thing you're going to notice that happens at peak height velocity is, that's when your child's going to be like a baby giraffe more so than any other time in their life. And, depending on where they're at with experience, whether you do it or not, it's up to you. You're the parent, but at least consider maybe giving them a break from tournaments. Like, golf's tough for a baby giraffe. Like
That's the
it
soundbite
is.
of the whole episode right there. Golf is
Yeah,
tough for a baby giraffe.
yeah. There's no two ways about it. It is what it is. So it's like, hey, maybe, maybe for the next 3, maybe 4 months, maybe we'll take a break on a couple of tournaments. Let's put some good time in the gym. Maybe we'll do some putting and some short game. But maybe I shouldn't put my kid out there on the battlefield and they start shooting 6 to 8 shots higher than they have been for the last year or two, and they don't understand why. And then I got to just talk to them about something they won't understand, like being a baby giraffe.
Hmm. Okay, I want to again. I'm going to hammer this home just so that I and the audience fully understand. The peak hike velocity, is that happen only once, or is that happening like through like 5 to 8? They have one 10 to 15, 13. Like when are we tracking that throughout
Yeah.
multiple stages of their development, or is there
So,
one kind of key time?
I'll tell you my understanding. So my understanding is there is multiple developmental windows, but there's only one time where they're going to hit their true peak height velocity, and that's going to be in those kind of in around that early teen years. So yeah, you have growth spurts when you're like 3 and 4 and 5 and stuff like that, and so your first two windows, and again, it varies based on this biological versus chronological age. Um, Girls go through these windows earlier than boys do, but again, my understanding is they're basically the same. So your first two developmental windows are speed windows. So let's call it like before 5 or 6, and then 6 to whenever you hit this peak height velocity thing. Most important stuff to be doing then is just go fast. Doesn't matter what you're doing, but don't let your kid be slow. So it's like, oh, we gotta get in the car to go to school. Great, make it a race. You're out playing in the backyard, nothing matters. Go as fast as you can. Um, so it's like speed, speed, speed. Okay, we're gonna kick stuff. Go kick it as hard as you can. Oh, you want to go play catch? All right, let's see how far we can throw it.
Are we worried
And
about so my son is 3, or he's going to be 3 in a week, and
yeah,
he's swinging that golf club pretty fast right now. And my wife is
good.
terrified that he's going to hurt himself, and I'm like, just let him swing it. Are we worried
Yep.
about that? Like
I'm
repetitive.
I'm not. Well, I'll tell you. So there's a weird stuff that I did, but um, until I think it was about 9, I had right and left-handed clubs in my kid's golf bag. Whatever,
Nice.
swing both ways. Like I don't know what's going to work out better for you. We ended up picking right-handed because he's left eye dominant, and there's a pretty strong correlation between um, tour players being cross dominant between eye and head in this putting. So yeah,
So he was ambidextrous to a point where you actually had to make a decision. Like he was that good both left-handed and right-handed up until like 9, 10.
I don't know if he was equally good or equally bad. I don't know. We didn't even keep score.
Nice.
Yeah,
But you
and
couldn't
so it
tell
didn't
like a
bother me.
noticeable difference in the way, because my son, even at like, I don't know, early, you could see which way he preferred to swing the club. Hey, if you're enjoying the golf parent, if these conversations have inspired you or helped you become a better parent to your junior golfer, please hit subscribe. It truly means the world to us and sends a powerful signal that what we're doing matters. And if you're feeling extra generous, leave us a review or follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. Your support helps us grow and continue bringing you incredible guests each week. Thank you. And now back to the episode.
Yeah, well, so it's everyone's different. Like people are messy, kids are messy. So I'd say if I had to pick what I think, trying to look back, I think my favorite like technical swing would have been my kid's right-handed swing, cross-handed, left hand low. And again, so like you got younger kids out there, don't be shocked if they pick it up left hand low because it's the easier way for them to stabilize it. If they're swinging left-handed, right hand low.
I can speak to that. Yeah,
Yep.
my son did
Yep.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of a way more natural thing for them to do.
Interesting. Okay. So we talked about from the early times is to use the early years as an opportunity to be as fast as possible. Run fast, throw fast, swing fast, 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 fast. And that's because we're developing, I don't know which one it is, slow twitch or fast twitch muscles, but you're basically training speed into them.
Uh,
Is that
yeah, I
correct?
mean, a lot of it is like core baseline athletic coordination,
Hmm.
right? So like the way I kind of look at it is like everything starts from the core. Like I was in a discussion with a pretty high level MLB folks of like, well, where does the core start? Does it start at the pelvic floor? Does it start at the belly? Like, oh God, I'm so far above my pay grade here. Um, but like think about when I don't know. To me, when I think about a lot of the best athletes, like let's let's picture an Olympic sprinter, right? If I was to like zoom in video, so all you saw was like neck to belt, no arms, no legs, Usain Bolt wouldn't be looking like he's moving as fast as he's looking. It would look like he's barely moving. He's just kind of standing there, right? But
Hmm.
it's that ability to stabilize the core while moving the other limbs independently that is kind of the baseline for success in sport.
Interesting.
So I think we'll go back to golf for a second. Um, I think one of the things that makes Ludwig Oberg's swing so aesthetically pleasing to the vast majority of golf parents out there is there's so little freaking movement of his body, right?
Hmm.
Like he doesn't have much of the downward compression. He doesn't have all the crunch, all the stuff that you see that's kind of got Zalatoris back in the back surgery world again.
Yeah.
You know,
And
so
I am starting to
yeah,
hear that. I'm hearing that from the experts that it's like, whose swing would you have your kid model? And Ludwig's name is now coming up quite a bit. It used to be Max Homa's. I've heard Jake Knapp's, but Ludwig seems to be the number one contender right now. Would you agree with that? Like, if you were to be, you know,
yeah. I
imprinting a
mean,
swing on your own kids?
it's a pretty good starting point. If you want to start there and kind of let them make it their own. You gotta be careful. It's like, especially with kids, you wanna kind of give them a model that's sort of in their general body size and capacity, but then let them make it themselves. I mean, I think for that one, I kind of like the recipe analogy. We'll go Alberta for a second here, and we'll just talk hamburgers, right? I love a good hamburger. There's a lot of different ways to make them, and they all do the same thing, and fill me up at the end of the day. So there's some basics like I need a patty and I need a bun, but after that, there's a lot of variability you can have in there. So I think it's important to kind of treat things like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was thinking about actually your secret recipe that goes in the patty. Is it eggs? Is it breadcrumbs? Is it ketchup? Is it paprika? Smoked paprika? Is it? That's a
That's
different
the
podcast.
Well, yeah, but like that's the speed training stuff, right? Because that you like what you do physically from a young age. That's what goes under the hood of an athlete.
So
All the other
if
stuff is, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if junior golf is, I mean, if you could have a crystal ball and see that your child's future is going to be in the world of golf, and then you're now given an opportunity when they're young to kind of work back, what sports would you put them in? What would you have them kind of doing that's aside from what we're just talking about doing everything fast, but what would you do to help develop them, knowing that once they hit 16, 18, 24, that that's when you want them to peak?
Go. I think a good starting point would be one racket sport, one martial art, and one top speed sport. Right. So hockey can be a top speed sport. Track can be a top speed sport. Um, martial art, body control, body awareness, striking, hand speed, foot speed is a thing. And then the racket stuff. sequencing, spatial awareness, face awareness of a racket that translates to a golf club, all that kind of good stuff.
Does pickleball count as a racket sport right now?
Uh, it would be on the low end of athletic development, which is why you see the age group that gravitates towards pickleball,
For
likes
sure.
low barrier to entry things. My personal preference, 100% badminton.
Badminton.
Yeah.
And I know
Yeah.
you played high level badminton, so are you
I
impartial
I
here, or
did.
is this the
Well,
data showing you this?
I think I'm also partial to it because another Albertan by the name of Jason Zubak played badminton at a high level. He happened to win 6 world long drive championships. Another Albertan is won world long drive championships. Jamie Sedlowski was also a badminton player. So I look at badminton, volleyball, and pitching to be probably the best sequencing development sports to generate hand speed. Badminton I like because there's a face awareness similar to there is in golf. Volleyball I like because you're unchained to the ground, so it is very difficult to learn an efficient technique. And then, baseball, throwing a baseball, to use a golf term, there is no smash factor, right? So that ball is only going to go as fast as you can make your hand go. So you got to figure it out.
This is episode whatever it's going to be, probably number 30-ish around there, and this is the first that I've ever heard badminton, volleyball, or baseball. I'm usually hearing basketball. I'm hearing tennis. Never really hear soccer too much, other than just to burn out the kids when they're young.
I
But
find basketball one of the most difficult to work with. So here's where I'd say basketball is good. And I'll preface this because, like, my kid wants to go to single sport specialization, dual at the most. And I'm like, no, man, I want you to keep playing basketball. Um, like sprint speed, right, which helps, jumping, which helps from the physical power outputs. But so playing it as an accessory for development of athleticism, yes. I get if you give me a myriad of professional athletes, which I've had happen at the places that I've taught, the last person on earth I want is an NBA player. Oh my God.
unless he's playing tight end, or you're transitioning to tight end in the NFL.
And a lot of it too is probably at that level. The basketball players have been single sport athletes, right? So they've never rotated, right? There's no rotation in basketball.
Hmm.
Not from like a sporting context. Obviously, I turn around and run the other way, or
Sure,
I
sure.
make a change of direction. But
It's not like a
it
forehand in tennis or something,
right.
or a
There's
slap shot in hockey.
there's basically no, like geek speak. We'd say there's basically no transverse plane. Slap shot in hockey, baseball, swing. Yet tennis, a good example. Squash, whatever. Any of these things. There's none of that. There's no striking, right? So there's no hand-eye. It's not an offline game like tennis where I'm learning to track a ball out here that's outside of my eye line. So yeah, I actually think basketball would be one of the worst uh, from a sporting context transferal. Physical conditioning, different story. Compatible skill set to golf, my opinion. I no.
Okay, I love this. Okay, so badminton. Why badminton specifically? Is it the you mentioned the face kind of manipulation, but is it the wrist? Is it like
Yes,
what
a
is it
lot
about
of it has to do
badminton?
with the wrist. So here, like, I'll give you a contrast between, like, say, tennis players, badminton players. Actually, I could use squash players.
Sure.
And we'll go squash. So let's go separate the key separator. Where badminton is my preference is it's the lightest implement, and similar where I said it's often unchained to the ground like volleyball. Jump smash in badminton is a thing, so it gets that whole body sequencing thing going. But it primarily has to do with wrist release. So when you look at tennis, right? Tennis, there's little to no wrist release. I keep the wrist kind of in the same position, and I swing the arm, and that's how I control it. And that so I'll talk specifically about two golfers I've worked with, not kids. One former professional tennis player named Marty Fish.
Mm.
Good player.
Yeah, the American. Yeah.
Yeah, plays off scratch. Um, where when we'd work together, he would, people want usually try and chase things that they don't need or don't matter, and so Marty was always trying to, chase some club head speed. It was so like this lock wrist movement was so ingrained in his patterning from his tennis days that he couldn't free up and, like, just let one go.
Like release the club head over.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So he was losing a key speed generation link there.
So he was
Great,
blocking shots or hitting like,
no,
split.
great control, phenomenal control over the golf ball. But he was like, think of it as losing a lever for speed. It's like your transmission in your car has 4 gears, but you're only using three,
Mm,
right? And so then I'll go with another one. This time Canadian, a guy named Jonathan Power. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's like top number one player in the squash world for like freaking 10 years.
interesting. It's a
Um,
great name. That's a powerful
Yeah,
name.
yeah. And so, while squash isn't played overhead, the racket's a little heavier, so good for the strength, but it's huge wrist stuff. And so JP comes into the golf lab one day, and I was playing squash, and we kind of met, and we're talking and sharing past stories of professional athlete life and whatnot. And I'm like, hey man, if you ever want to like learn how to golf or whatever, I'm totally down to trade time. So I'd go hop on court with him and he'd show me a few things and I'd go ahead and, you know, do whatever, freaking run around, try and pick a few things up. And then he'd come into the golf lab. And I remember the first time he came in, this was when we still were using 6 irons as fitting clubs. And I'm like, here, man, just hit a few. Let's see what's going on. And he's like, well, how do I hold it? I'm like, well, I don't know. How do you think you should hold it? It's like, oh man, I don't know. So he kind of grabbed like this weird little split grip thing, hit about an inch behind it on the first one, hooked off to the left. And the second one, he caught it relatively clean, hit a 6 iron like 185 yards with maybe a 40, 50-foot hook. He's like, well, how was that? I was like, that's pretty stinking good, dude. He's like, okay, what do I work on? I'm like, well, I'll tell you what, the only thing I would do, I would put your hands together so they're like touching. So some people like to play with this called an overlap grip, and some people like an interlock grip. So why don't you like try those? It's like, okay, well, what else? What about my swing? How's my swing look? I'm like, oh, looks pretty good. He's like, well, like, can we look at it on video? I'm like, I mean, if you want to. He's like, well, shouldn't we? I'm like, well, dude, like your second golf swing ever, you just ripped a 6 iron 185 yards. Like, you're doing it pretty good. Here, how about if I give you a thought? He's like, oh yeah, okay. So in squash, one of like a standard kind of shot you play is to hit a forehand, but you sort of keep the face open and you kind of hit it with a little bit of backspin. And
Hmm.
because he was hooking it, I'm like, well, what you're doing right now, it's kind of like rolling the face closed to hit a cross court forehand. Feel like you just kind of hold it a little bit open, so it goes down the forehand wall. All right, then we hung out, talked for a little bit, hit like 5 putts, asked about his putting stroke. I'm like, oh, it doesn't matter. Just, try and make sure you get the ball to go the right distance. Okay. So he texts me. It was like probably 2 weeks later. He's like, hey man, I just played my first round at Angus Glen. I shot 86. Is that good? Like, yeah, of course. But, best athlete always wins.
So if you had to pick then badminton or squash, based on what we're talking about here, which would be your preference?
I'd be fine with either. Honestly, it'd
Either.
be whichever one the kid has more fun playing, because the more fun they have playing it, the more they're going to play it. The more they play it, the better the athlete they become.
Well said. What about the martial art?
Whatever they're into, you know.
Doesn't matter, eh?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably try to start with something like a taekwondo or a kickboxing.
Because you're
Something that's
wanting
going to
that
involve.
hand speed. We're not talking Tai Chi here, where you're looking at like energy
Right.
manipulation or something. You're looking at something that's actually like an impact.
Right, and like even jujitsu and stuff can be great for strength, but I want the coordination control of learning how to maintain balance, posture, and striking with all four limbs.
Mm. Hmm. Okay.
Build athletes, not golfers. Athletes become great golfers, and you try a traditional golfer is usually a pretty shit athlete.
That certainly seems to be now a unanimous chapter that I could put into a book that I'm never going to write, which is
Yeah.
give me an athlete and I could turn him into a golfer. Like single sport specialization, sure, there's the anomalies, but give me an athlete first, and I can
Hmm.
build him into a golfer. Seems to be the mantra.
Yep, for sure.
Hmm.
I'd agree with that. Maybe not
Okay.
basketball player, but I'll take it. I'll take that later.
Well, it's funny because again, I get basketball a lot. Scotty Scheffler played basketball. A lot of guys are playing basketball, and the argument for that to Steelman the other side of it would be because they're understanding kind of hand-eye, I guess, coordination in depth, where they can place a ball like if you were to chip 50 yards or having an idea about doing that, and then jumping and some other things. But it was really more just the ball hand-eye coordination aspect of it. But
Yeah,
you're right with the lack of rotational stuff, and you're right with yeah, I mean, I would tend to agree based on what you said that if I have a choice, basketball probably wouldn't be it.
the offline game. I mean, here's the thing. Like, not saying basketball is bad, right? Like I said, like I
Yeah,
want my
yeah,
kid
yeah.
to play basketball. I mean, from a barrier to entry. I mean, well, you need a hoop and a ball. That's pretty easy. Um, and you look at especially like from an early age, success is important, right? And it's
Hmm,
like anyone can throw a ball at a hoop enough and it goes in, right?
yeah,
I can take a lot of golfers and, you know, they'll have a hell of a lot higher shooting percentage than a basketball player will have good shot percentage on a golf course.
hmm.
Yeah.
What?
So,
Okay, so all that fantastic.
yeah,
You talked about the explosive sports. So you said track. You said hockey.
yeah.
What else are we missing here? Just something where they're just running and moving fast. Like would soccer fall within that as well?
Yeah, I'd be good with soccer in that one too, for sure. Like anything that just like has periods of absolute full on whatever we're doing, go as fast as you can, and if you're faster than the other people you're competed against, you'll be rewarded.
Hmm,
Right? So in soccer it's like, oh, there's a loose ball. Well, I want to get it and I'm faster, and so I got rewarded because I got the ball. Or I didn't, so I'm motivated to now be faster next time.
makes
So
sense.
yeah, it's I'm trying to think what else is there out there for kids stuff. Mm,
Football's
yeah.
a different argument altogether because you've got a lot. Obviously, you've got two camps with parents: those that are okay with any sort of the contact type sports, like a hockey or a football, and those that would prefer, not to. And again, a lot of this is what the
Yeah.
kid is going to gravitate towards or interested
But
in. But
down here, the flag football is huge at a young age for all those reasons. I think the flag football is awesome.
yeah,
I think ultimate frisbee would be a pretty good one. I know that gets more popular, I think, out on the West Coast. But here's another way to think about it. At the end of the day, I like this because I like to think of there's a reason you kind of have three primary athletic principles or skills: sprint, jump, throw. So, does what you're doing kind of fall under those? So, throw, when I'm talking about that, like from a biomechanical perspective, I would consider a throw, rotating the body one way, like counter rotation followed by speed and releasing energy the other way. So I would put tennis under that. I know it's not a throw, but just from a
yeah, no,
biomechanical
I'd buy
sport
that.
context.
Sure.
Yeah. So,
So sprint, jump, some sort of throw.
yep. And I'd even say like a martial art high kick would fall under that rotational speed generation, channel energy from proximal to distal, all that good stuff.
Fascinating. What surprised you when you first got into this kind of biomechanics scientific method journey when it came to understanding the golf swing specifically? What really stood out where you're like, "Huh, this is counterintuitive, or I never would have guessed that this is the case, but the data is clearly showing me that it actually is."
Honestly, I think the biggest thing for me was personal reflection. Like I'm learning about all this stuff going, huh, oh, well, that makes sense why when I actually started to care about golf when I was 17, I was pretty good. Oh, okay, well, that makes sense why I had 195-mile-an-hour ball speed when nobody else did, and that type of thing just didn't exist on Earth. But, at the same time, like when I was in college, I was like 5'11", 180 pounds, and I was able to just barely dunk. When I was 12 years old playing little league, I could throw mid to high 60s, which that may be above average here in Louisiana, but that was fairly untouchable in northern Alberta. Um, won a national like won medals in badminton, at the college level, at the CCAA level, and had a bit of a rocket for a smash. And so it's like all these things just add up. Well, yeah, of course, no wonder. I guess, yeah, you do put a golf club in my hand. Yeah, well, ball went far. So,
Hence what we're talking about here with the multi different sports, and then you putting them all together. Jumping, something to do with a hand eye like a tennis or throwing, and something fast like a sprinting type. You mentioned, Liam, you're a golf parent yourself. You're a sports parent.
mhm.
You had mentioned off air that you're an assistant or a volunteer baseball coach. A
Golf,
lot of the
high school
forgive me,
golf
yeah,
coach.
baseball,
Yeah, yeah.
baseball. A lot of the golf parents are in that exact same situation, trying to figure out what it takes to be the best type of sport parent that they can be, and how to properly support their kid, and understand all those downstream kind of negative effects. What's your take on what it takes to be a good kind of golf parent or a sport parent in general?
Um, well, I mean, there's a lot to it. So, like, let's start with fundamental basics, okay? And so now I'm gonna start with you, kind of the same place. If I'm, put my high school golf coach hat on, and you pretend you're a parent of one of the kids on the team, and you're trying to figure out what you can do to help improve um your high school golfer's performance. Well, I don't care about anything if they're not getting 8 to 9 hours of sleep a day and eating properly. Like, you talk about, the secret sauce you put inside a hamburger. Like, if you're literally not managing your kids' nutrition and sleep, I don't know why anything else would matter.
Hmm.
And I find that interesting because when I say that to parents, they're immediately thinking, well, it's something with his grip, or maybe his irons don't fit him anymore. And like, I'm not saying that's not it, but if we're truly talking, so whether it's parenting or coaching, to me, that's about either one is about helping an individual, not yourself, achieve greater than what they thought was possible. And like, if I'm trying to help someone reach their potential, I'm sorry, but like, yeah, you can ask my wife this, but I care a hell of a lot more about my kid's position at the top of the backswing now that he's started to go to bed at a decent hour and have at least a respectable diet here in South Louisiana. Because like, if we're not taking care of those basics for the human body, the engine, then why are why are we worried about the paint job?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're not putting the right fuel in the car, and if the engine's not tuned up right, who cares how shiny the paint job is? It's not going to sustain or last.
And I'm also well aware, like, I'm guessing there's probably 90% of your audience is like, oh, God damn it, I don't want to hear that. Well, no, you probably don't. But if you're in business and you hire a consultant, your consultant probably tells you a lot of shit you don't want to hear. So, it is what it is. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay,
But
so let's go to the opposite side. So what have you seen that is more like in that toxic kind of parent mold, where the parents may not even realize what they're doing, but you're like, oh, if only you could see what negative effect that's going to have on your kid.
yeah, it goes from the typical, uh, living vicariously through their child and they don't even see it would be one. Um, I think another one is where you reinforce, uh, you help them define self-worth based on outcome by focusing more on score and not on process. I can tell you that's a big one for me. Like, um, I'll enjoy when my kid shoots a good round, but like whether he does or he doesn't, it's like, okay, we're done the round, good. Put your stats in. Okay, then the next thing we're going to talk about, tell me about the best shot you hit out there today. I want to hear that story first. Tell me about the biggest thing you feel like you could have done better today, because I want to hear that story too, right? This process of reflection all matters. Um, so to do that stuff, and it's never opening with, you know, what'd you shoot or anything like that. Did you, the one I'll find myself saying a lot is like, did you enjoy the challenge? Right? Because I This is weird to me. I get enjoyment on many, many levels from golf. It's been a huge part of my life, from a young age, professionally, providing for my family. Man, I don't know if it's fun. I don't know if it's fun.
Every golfer out there is probably chuckling along with me because it's true. It is a form of abuse that I often describe it as an unhealthy relationship. One that it'll beat you up and then it'll give you that one good kind of kind word, or you'll hit that one perfect shot and you'll be like, and then you'll just keep coming back.
Yep,
And it's an unhealthy relationship. There's no doubt
it
about that.
it's satisfying when you grind out a good round. It's rewarding when you finally win a tournament. I don't know if fun's the right word for it.
No, no, I would agree with you.
So yeah, and
So
then
do you
it
give your
goes
kid process
to
goals in? Like in a round, are they trying to hit X amount of fairways, trying to not make like two, three putts, or are they
yeah,
just living in the moment and then just keeping track at the end?
I mean, usually we'll try and do stuff like, okay, so again, here's an example. Okay, so like stats program I use will look and it'll give me proximity to hole from, all these different yardage increments, it's full span of a golf course. And we'll just look at it and be like, okay, well, where are you hitting it closest from? Okay, like, I just think today, like, if you're not going for a par five and two, I want your layup yardage. I want you to try and get your approach yardage on par fours. Let's try and get it to between 120 and 140 because you're hot there right now. Right. Gap wedge, pitching wedge, or you're in a good spot. So let's get it there. Let's try and get those clubs in your hand as most consistently because we know they're performing well. And then think about by the time you get to 18th hole, if it's your 10th time that day hitting the same approach club from the same basic yardage, it's a heck of a lot easier to execute.
Hmm.
So yeah, like we'll do that kind of stuff. We'll do some emotional type process goals that, stuff that's harder to quantify. I'll give them little things like, okay, well, yeah, like, look, man, I just try not to look at the ground today. I know it's easy and you're out there and it's hot and all this stuff, but keep your eyes above the pin. And when your eyes are above the pin, you're in better posture and you breathe. Your diaphragm is more likely to expand, stimulate the vagus nerve, and keep you in a state of relaxation as opposed to, the uh, yeah, whatever, getting like too worked
Just
up and
listen
out
to
of
dad.
control or
Listen, there's
whatever.
a whole bunch of science behind it, but
Yeah,
just
like
listen
there's
to
a
dad.
bunch of
There's a
stuff.
reason why I'm telling you this.
Just keep your eyes above the pin, dude. So yeah, like we'll do a lot of that kind of stuff. One of the things I'm going to end up doing with them here pretty soon is put them through the S2 cognitive testing. It's very interesting
What's that?
thing. It's quite popular around all sports. It's got very high correlations of, success in different sports to, different things like impulse control. It's a cognitive test. Um, so people out there are pretty serious. It'd be, you can learn some good stuff about your kid. You'll probably learn why you see certain behaviors and situations that commonly routinely frustrate you.
Hmm.
Um, so you can there are some there's some pretty cool advanced tools out there for the people that do want to get on the search, we'll say.
Hmm.
But yeah.
Liam, part of that search that a lot of the audience is going to be doing is trying to find out more information about you, more of the wisdom that you share. How do they get into your ecosystem? How do people find you? Where would you direct them to?
And I mean, you start with the usual suspects like social media. You can follow at the Golf Lab at Liam Mucklow. Um, most of my work right now is on like research and coach development side, so not a ton of active coaching per se, for anyone that's very highly motivated. Yeah, you can reach out on social media if you want to come down to Baton Rouge. You can come into the lab here for those that are in the Southern Ontario area. At the very least, I would recommend you get one of the most comprehensive physical, technical, and equipment um, assessments available. And our guys relay all that stuff back out to coaches the kids work with. So I'd say there's opportunities there. I think great resources. Just if you like some of the information you've heard me talking about, um, TPI Titleist Performance Institute, their specifically their junior coach track is awesome. That's where hear me talking about peak height velocity and the four developmental windows. That's a phenomenal resource where you can consume all of that in a very golf centric environment.
Love that advice. Liam, if you had the ear of a bunch of golf parents and a bunch of junior golf coaches and even the players themselves, what would you want to share with them? What would you want to leave them knowing?
Well, I'd say for the parents, like, do it with them, right? So, like, you can tell your kid to go practice, or you can say, hey, let's go hit some balls. The latter's going to work way better. And when you get out there to the driving range, this is one of the hard ones for me, is it's pretty easy to get in there and tell them to change their grip or change their alignment or do some of this. But, you might be better off to just go, hey, let's see who can land it closest to the 100-yard marker. And you'll get a lot more openness from them after they failed a few times, after you beat them a few times and they want to get better. They might actually care what you have to say. But until that happens, they probably don't. And guess what? If they keep beating your ass, then you probably should keep your mouth shut anyway, because clearly what they're doing is working better than whatever the heck you're doing.
Awesome. Yeah, man, I
So,
appreciate your time. It was awesome to connect with a fellow former Albertan
yeah.
who's killing it now all throughout the world. I'm excited. I'm excited to continue to watch what you're doing and see what you got up your sleeve with MLB and PGA. And
No,
yeah, really appreciate
appreciate it.
your
You've
time.
got, I'd say there's one probably important, relevant question that I think you should ask me for before we wrap this thing, if you've
I
got
love
time.
it. Please.
What's the craziest golf parent thing I've ever seen on a golf course?
I didn't know if you wanted to get into that story. Let's do it. Yeah, I
Well,
stopped you off air
it's
because I'm like, let's save it for the podcast. Let's do it.
yeah, again, this falls under more of what not to do. I'll tell you what, actually, I'm gonna preface this with a different one, and then I'll go here. One of the most powerful things that you can do as a golf parent is just let your kid play. When they sign up for a tournament, drop them off, ask them if they're all right, ask them if they got water, ask them if they got trail mix and whatever, and be like, all right, you're on your own. I love you. I'll see you in 5 hours. Have a great day. It's weird. That was a very common thing growing up in Canada. One of the weirdest things about coaching high school golf here in Louisiana, I had kids that were a senior, and he's never played around a tournament golf without his mom watching. And I talked to him about it. I'm like, how does that make you feel? Like, honestly, coach, I play so much better when she's not here. It makes me nervous. I just want to do good for her. So, something to really think about. And if you're really thinking about your job as a parent is for your kids, your job, if you want them to be a golfer or a parent, your job is to prepare them for life and prepare them for battle on the golf course. So you being out there lining them up, telling them what club to hit, where to aim, where to land it, you are doing the opposite. You're actually being more detrimental. Um, but that'll lead into the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen from a parent on a golf course was when I was coaching a high school match. We're on the back right side of uh, a course called Greystone down here in South Louisiana, and the ball was, way, way down. It actually turned out being inside a drainage pipe, inside an unmarked hazard, and I just completed my annual rule certification, so I was basically able to quote verbatim. I come there, I get called to ask for a ruling. There's already a dad that's in there doing this, that, and the other thing, telling his kid to move a ball because it's lift clean in place today, blah, blah, blah. But obviously, you can't do that in a hazard. And I'm just like, look, I'm sorry, but you can tell by the lay of the land, even though this is unmarked, it's clearly in a hazard. We're 3 feet below the surface of the rest of the hole. We haven't even clearly identified that this is his golf ball. And sure enough, it wasn't his golf ball. Then he found his golf ball that was in a different drainage pipe. And he goes to take a drop, takes a drop. We're standing over here, and the dad's like, well, get out of the way. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, sir. Like, where would you like me to stand? He, made me move about 30 feet over this way. Has killed his kid, as you can imagine. If you're you know, the kid was a good player. I mean, like, he's a scratch player, but you're dealing with all this crap, and your dad trying to, like, get in arguments over rules that he doesn't know with a coach who knows what he's talking about. So of course the kid sculls into the water, makes like quadruple bogey to shoot like 5 over for the day. And the dad just goes irate, starts yelling at me, tries to fight me, like literally tries to attack me. The coach of the kid was there in a cart, had to get up and physically restrain him and like pull him away. Meanwhile, he's yelling at me that I'm going to be waiting here in the parking lot for you all night. And I'm going like, hey, I mean, growing up in Alberta, we've been in a fair share of dust ups, but we ain't worried about guns, right? You maybe
No,
exchange a few, you go back in and buy the guy a beer and call it a day. So that was freaking crazy. Ends up the parent was banned from attending all sanctioned golf events for the rest of the year. Like it was
was that a
wild.
pattern of behavior? Did you find out, or was that just a really bad day, or what?
I you
What
know
did you
I
learn about him?
I don't know. The coach of that team filed a report with their principal. Their principal were fired with the state school association. And then I just kind of got word like, yeah, hey, that guy's getting banned. He'll never be allowed to watch golf again. I'm like, oh, well, I mean, cool. Thanks. Probably not what we need. But, we've all seen stuff like that around the hockey world.
Sure. It'll be interesting to see how his son performs now that that bit of toxicity is no longer involved in his tournaments. I wonder if
Well,
he accelerates or whether or not he needed that crutch.
no, he ended up winning the Metro Championship that year, and I have a feeling a lot of it was because his dad wasn't allowed.
Interesting.
So, yeah, just it's hard to separate. But are you parenting for you, or are you parenting for your kid?
Well said.
Maybe that's a good one to end it on.
100% it is. Yeah. Very, very, very well said. Appreciate you. Appreciate the time. This won't be the last time we talk.
Yeah, awesome. All right, thanks, Ryan.
Thanks for tuning in. As a fellow golf parent, I know how much this journey matters. If this podcast helped you even 1%, please consider following and reviewing it. It's the #1 way to grow the community and keep bringing you elite insights week after week. And while you're here, check out the show description for exclusive discounts from our sponsors, handpicked to help your junior golfer train smarter and play better.